Well, hello everybody again. Welcome back to this channel here. The last video wasn't particularly successful because it turns out that sending you off-site to a video from YouTube is now not allowed, and they don't like that. So I've got to try, if I want to stay on YouTube, I've got to comply with all the restrictive guidelines, as they call it, or their censorship, as it really is. I'm not allowed to say what I really want to say, and I'm not allowed to even direct you off-site to another place to watch a video somewhere else. They just truncate the link to it so that you can't follow the link, and I can't give it to you in two halves either, or else they say they will eventually figure out that you're contravening their guidelines once again by getting around that, because you are actually sending people off site. So it's a violation of their guidelines. So I'm going to have to start doing a little bit a little more creative, and try to start looking at concepts related to the topic that we want to look at. That is of the this amazing thing that we've been living through for quite a while, with quarantining and all that sort of thing, and being needles stuck into us and stuff like that. I think I'm allowed to say that. So I want to start pointing out a few things, as I said in the last video, that maybe some of you were not able to see due to the link being truncated, that I'd like to try and start helping you educate people to the fantasies that have been generated and that we're actually living under, and that governments are perpetrating and continuing with these fantasies. And so I'm going to start a little, I don't know how far I'll get, or even how dedicated I'm going to be with it, but I'm going to start to look for the elusive unicorn and explain how it doesn't work. You know, the unicorn with a letter V, that is, so that we can explore some of those concepts that don't work and try and debunk the whole industry, as it were, little by little. And if you can understand some of these concepts and use a little bit of logic, then you may be able to understand it and help others understand it too, to find where we went wrong and try and put us back on the right track. Now, I've said a lot about knowledge and gain understanding to apply wisdom, so we'll do that process in search of the unicorns. Now, in this first one, I want to look at, where do unicorns come from? Now, it's very important to understand or get the concept of where unicorns come from, because by understanding their origins, it gives a good idea of the fallacy of their existence. Now, if you say unicorns come from a cave under the sea or something like that, we know that a unicorn can be dangerous and could be out to try and kill us. But if you were told that unicorns come from within your body, from within your own cells, then you'd start to question a little bit as to how dangerous they are. During the quarantining, they used the excuse to scare us that they could be passed on infectiously and all that sort of thing, and that's why we had to do this social distancing, so they wouldn't infect others with these unicorns. And they also said that even these unicorns could sit on a surface, like on the pavement, on the asphalt, on the desktop, on the countertop, on the this and on the that, for X number of hours. And they even said that they could be for a number of days. Now, the very fact that they say that they could sit there for so many days is a debunking statement on its own, because it means that these unicorns cannot exist outside our body for very long, which means there is no way that they can survive, because they disintegrate. And they told us themselves, these supposed scientists and the nefarious people, that sunlight broke them down, temperature would break them down, and that moisture lack of moisture would also disintegrate them within hours, and sometimes at the most within days. And so that means that these unicorns cannot exist outside of your body. So their natural habitat is inside your body. Now, if you consider that they're a nefarious thing trying to attack us, why would they start from within your body to attack your body and only jump to another person to infect them as well? They also admitted by their own propaganda that there was nowhere outside us that they could originate. They could not find any mechanism by which they could invent themselves, create or reproduce or replicate outside of our body. It wasn't under a stone, it wasn't in a shell, it wasn't in a tree, it wasn't under the sea, it wasn't anything. The only place they can replicate is in our body. Now, if you apply some logic to that, it means they're from our body and they do not exist outside of our body except for a short-term transference, potentially. So you immediately, that should be a red flag to you that they don't exist outside of our body. So where do unicorns come from? They come from inside our body. They also can tell us now that they need our cells to replicate. They supposedly get into our cells and usurp the mechanisms in the cell, the same mechanism that other particles within our body are able to use to replicate, and they supposedly usurp that to replicate themselves. Now, that originally there is no other mechanism. So if you go logically back to the first one that was ever created, the first unicorn ever that existed, it was because our cells produced them. Our cells made them. There were no pre-existing unicorns, and the first unicorn that ever replicated came from within our cells. They also admit with their own mouths, their own indoctrination and their own propaganda, that unicorns, they mutate. Now, where do they mutate? They don't do it outside the body because there is no mechanism to replicate or change them. The only place they can mutate is within our cells once again. So apply that logic again. Are you getting it clear? There is no place outside of our cells that they can have first originated from. They cannot replicate outside our bodies, and they cannot mutate outside our bodies. So the big answer to the question, where do unicorns come from, is they come from our own cells, our own body, are the perpetrators or the originators of their existence. So if unicorns exist, then it is our own body that invented them. Let that sink in, and in the next video we'll look at another concept.